Black janitor's daughter fixes CEO's computer reveals she owns hidden tech empire. The tension in the boardroom was suffocating. Robert Thompson's face had turned a deep shade of crimson as he stared in disbelief at the young woman standing confidently at the end of the mahogany table. The same woman who, just hours earlier, had been kneeling under his desk fixing his computer. The daughter of Gladys, the company janitor who had faithfully cleaned these offices for 27 years. Telling me that you, Robert's voice cracked as he pointed a trembling finger at Maya Johnson. You're the owner of Horizon Technologies, the same company that's been outbidding us on every contract for the past 3 years. Maya nodded, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos erupting around her. The board members whispered frantically to one another, papers shuffled. Someone dropped a pen that clattered across the polished table. Not just the owner, Maya said, her voice steady and clear. I founded it, built it from nothing while watching my mother scrub your floors every night. Robert collapsed back into his leather chair. This is impossible. This is corporate espionage. The other executives began shouting all at once. Accusations flew across the room. Maya's gaze never wavered from Robert's face, even as his trusted advisor, James Wilson, placed a restraining hand on his shoulder. Call security, someone yelled. No. Robert slammed his palm on the table, silencing the room. Everyone out, except you, he pointed at Maya. And you, he nodded to James. This ends now. As the room cleared, Maya opened her briefcase and removed a folder. Before you make any decisions, Mr. Thompson, I think you should see exactly what I'm offering your company, because contrary to what you might believe right now, I'm not here to destroy you. But let's go back to how this all started. It was just 3 hours earlier when Gladys Johnson received an urgent call while mopping the executive floor. Gladys Johnson hummed softly to herself as she guided her mop across the gleaming floor of Thompson Enterprises executive level. At 68, her back ached more than it used to, but she took pride in her work. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long rectangles of light across her freshly cleaned surface. She'd been cleaning these offices since 1997, back when Robert Thompson's father still ran the company and computers were beige boxes that weighed a ton. The building was mostly empty this early. Gladys preferred it that way. Just her thoughts, and occasionally Frank, the security guard who'd been here almost as long as she had. They shared the same appreciation for getting things done before the chaos of the day began. Her phone vibrated in the pocket of her uniform. Gladys rarely received calls during work hours. Her friends knew her schedule, so she quickly dried her hands on a rag and answered. Mama, the voice of her daughter Maya came through clearly. Are you at work already? Since 5, baby, everything okay? Gladys could hear the tension in her daughter's voice. I need a favor. I need to get into Thompson Enterprises today, and I need to do it quietly. Gladys frowned. Maya had never asked for anything like this before. Her daughter had always kept her work life completely separate from Gladys's. In fact, Maya had been insistent on it. What's going on, Maya? You in some kind of trouble? No, Mama, the opposite, but I can't explain over the phone. Can you help me? It's important. Gladys hesitated only briefly. You know I'd do anything for you, baby. What do you need? I need to fix a computer today, the CEO's computer. Gladys almost dropped her phone. Robert Thompson's computer. Girl, have you lost your mind? I can't get you anywhere near his office. Security around here is tight, and Mama, Maya interrupted gently. Trust me, I have a plan. And when this is all over, everything's going to make a lot more sense, I promise. Something in her daughter's voice, a certainty, a quiet confidence that reminded Gladys of Maya's father, made her agree. All right, but whatever you're planning, be careful. These corporate types don't play. I'll be there in an hour. Love you, Mama. After hanging up, Gladys stood motionless for a moment, wondering what her brilliant, mysterious daughter was up to now. Maya had always been exceptional, skipping grades, winning science competitions, earning scholarships, but after college she'd become increasingly private about her work. Gladys knew Maya had started some kind of technology business, but whenever she asked for details, Maya would just smile and say, "Still building, Mama. I'll tell you when it's ready." Was it ready now? And what did it have to do with Robert Thompson? Gladys resumed her mopping, moving a little faster than before. She had always been proud of her daughter, but she'd never quite understood her. Growing up in Birmingham during the civil rights era had taught Gladys to keep her head down and work hard. Maya had inherited the work ethic, but none of the caution. That girl had fire just like her father. At precisely 7:30 a.m., Robert Thompson strode through the glass doors of Thompson Enterprises. At 59, he still maintained the athletic build of his younger days, though his dark hair had long since turned silver at the temples. He nodded politely to Gladys as he passed. "Morning, Gladys. Floor's looking good today." Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Have a good one. This brief exchange was their routine. In all the years she'd worked here, Robert had never failed to acknowledge her. It wasn't much, but in Gladys's experience, it was more than most executives did. Robert's father had never once spoken to her. As he disappeared into the elevator, Gladys's phone buzzed with a text. Maya had arrived. Getting Maya past security was easier than Gladys had anticipated. Frank had always had a soft spot for her, and when she explained that her daughter was a computer whiz who might be able to help with the system issues the IT department had been struggling with, he'd barely glanced at Maya's hastily created visitor badge. "Just keep her with you, Gladys," Frank had said with a wink. "And if she can fix that damn email system, I'll buy you both lunch." Now, as they waited for the executive elevator, Gladys studied her daughter. At 32, Maya had grown into a beautiful, poised woman. Today, she wore a simple blue dress with a blazer, professional but not flashy. Her natural hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and she wore minimal jewelry. Nothing about her appearance suggested she was anything other than what her visitor badge claimed, an IT consultant. "You going to tell me what this is really about?" Gladys whispered as they stepped into the empty elevator. Maya smiled. "Mama, I'm about to fix a lot more than a computer, but I need you to trust me a little longer." When they reached the executive floor, Maya took a deep breath. "Is Mr. Thompson in his office?" "Should be. He just arrived." "Perfect. And his assistant doesn't get in until 8. Maya nodded, seeming to file this information away. "Okay, I need you to knock on his door. Tell him your daughter is an IT specialist and you heard he was having computer problems." "And is he having computer problems?" Maya's smile turned mysterious. "He will be." Before Gladys could question this concerning statement, Maya pulled out her phone and tapped a few commands. Down the hall, they heard a muffled exclamation of frustration from Robert's office. "Maya Johnson, what did you just do?" "Created an opportunity, Mama. Now knock on that door before he calls the real IT department." Reluctantly, Gladys approached Robert's office and knocked tentatively. "What?" came the irritated response. Gladys opened the door to find Robert glaring at his computer screen, which was displaying a blue error message. "Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Thompson, but I couldn't help overhearing. My daughter is visiting today. She works in it. Maybe she could take a look." Robert glanced up, clearly ready to dismiss the offer, when his eyes landed on Maya standing professionally in the doorway. Something, perhaps desperation, perhaps curiosity, changed his expression. "Your daughter?" "Yes, sir, this is Maya. She's fixed my computer more times than I can count." Maya stepped forward and offered her hand. "Maya Johnson, I specialize in system security and data recovery." Robert shook her hand briefly. "Robert Thompson, and I'm afraid this is more than a simple fix. Everything just crashed. I was in the middle of preparing for the most important board meeting of my career, and now I can't access any of my files." "May I?" Maya gestured to the computer. Robert hesitated, then stepped aside. "At this point, I've got nothing to lose. The board meets at 10, and without these presentations, we're finished anyway." As Maya sat in Robert's chair and began typing, Gladys quietly excused herself. "I'll just continue my rounds, Mr. Thompson. Leave you two to the technical stuff." Robert nodded absently, his attention fixed on Maya and his computer. As Gladys closed the door behind her, she couldn't shake the feeling that her daughter was setting something momentous in motion. Inside the office, Maya worked silently for a few minutes, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Robert paced behind her, occasionally glancing at his watch. "Can you fix it?" he finally asked. "Already done," Maya replied, turning the screen toward him. "Your files are recovered and the presentation is open." Robert stared in disbelief. "That's impossible. Our IT team has been trying to solve these system issues for weeks." Maya stood up, relinquishing his chair. "Sometimes it just takes a fresh perspective." Robert sat down, scrolling through his presentation with a look of relief. "You just saved Thompson Enterprises a lot of embarrassment. Thank you." He looked up at her curiously. "I didn't know Gladys had a daughter who worked in tech." "There's a lot people don't know about janitors and their families," Maya replied with a small smile. "We tend to be invisible." Something in her tone made Robert study her more carefully. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect, Mr. Thompson?" Before he could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "I need to take this, but please send me your contact information. Thompson Enterprises could use someone with your skills." Maya nodded and wrote her email address on a post-it note, placing it on his desk. As Robert answered his call and turned toward the window, she slipped out of his office. In the hallway, she found her mother waiting anxiously. "Did it work?" Gladys whispered. "Perfectly," Maya replied. "Now we wait." "For what?" "For him to realize who I really am." While Robert prepared for his board meeting, Maya convinced her mother to let her wait in the small break room on the executive floor. Gladys was reluctant cleaning staff weren't supposed to use these facilities, but Maya insisted she needed to stay close. "Just for another hour, Mama, then everything changes." Gladys shook her head. "I don't like this sneaking around. It's not how I raised you." "Sometimes you have to bend the rules to fix what's broken," Maya said, squeezing her mother's hand. "Daddy taught me that." The mention of Maya's father softened Gladys's expression. Winston Johnson had been a civil rights activist in his youth and later an electrical engineer, brilliant, principled, and fearless. He'd passed away when Maya was just 15, but his influence on her had been profound. "He'd be proud of you," Gladys conceded, "even if you're being as stubborn and mysterious as he ever was." As Gladys returned to her duties, Maya settled in the break room with her laptop. She connected to the guest Wi-Fi and began monitoring the situation unfolding several floors below, where Thompson Enterprises board members were arriving for their emergency meeting. Maya knew exactly what that meeting was about. Thompson Enterprises was failing, had been for years. Their technology was outdated, their market share shrinking. Today, Robert would be pitching a last-ditch effort to save the company, a hostile takeover of a smaller but more innovative competitor. A company called Horizon Technologies. Her company. Maya had founded Horizon 7 years ago in her tiny apartment, coding late into the night after her day job at a tech support call center. She'd been inspired by her father's old electronics notebooks ideas he'd never had the capital or connections to develop. In the beginning, she'd kept her involvement secret out of necessity. A young black woman seeking investment capital faced barriers that Maya didn't have time to overcome. So she'd created a virtual founder, a white male avatar named Max Horizon who conducted all business remotely. Behind this digital mask, Maya had built Horizon Technologies into a powerhouse. She developed revolutionary software, secured government contracts, and outmaneuvered competitors like Thompson Enterprises at every turn, all while maintaining her anonymity. Only her business partner, Marcus Reed, knew the truth. For years, this arrangement had worked perfectly. But 3 months ago, everything changed when Thompson Enterprises began aggressively targeting Horizon for acquisition. Maya had rebuffed their increasingly hostile offers, but Robert was desperate. Today's board meeting was his final play, a plan to leverage Thompson's remaining assets to force Horizon into submission. Maya had come here today to end the charade, but on her terms. She needed to understand her opponent face-to-face before revealing herself. The computer malfunction had been her way in. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "They're all there, boardroom at full capacity." Maya took a deep breath and began gathering her things. It was time. In the boardroom, Robert Thompson stood before the anxious faces of his board members. The massive table was ringed with men and women who had watched Thompson Enterprises' stock price steadily decline over the past 5 years. They were worried, impatient, and looking for someone to blame. "Ladies and gentlemen," Robert began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "I won't sugarcoat our situation. Thompson Enterprises stands at a crossroads. Our legacy technologies are no longer competitive, and our attempts to innovate internally have failed to gain traction." Murmurs rippled around the table. None of this was news. "However," Robert continued, clicking to the next slide in his presentation, "there is a path forward. Horizon Technologies has developed the exact innovations we need. Their cloud security protocols and AI systems are years ahead of the market. Their client list is growing exponentially, and their valuation has tripled in the past 18 months. James Wilson, Robert's longtime friend and chief financial officer, took over. "Our analysis shows that acquiring Horizon would immediately stabilize our position and provide a foundation for growth. We've prepared an aggressive offer leveraging our remaining assets." An older board member, Harold Jenkins, scoffed. "We've tried this approach already. Horizon has rejected every offer. What makes you think they'll accept now?" "Because this time we're not asking," Robert replied grimly. "We've secured enough backing to initiate a hostile takeover. Horizon is still small enough that with the right pressure from our banking partners, we can force the acquisition." "And who exactly would we be acquiring?" Ask Diane Mercer, the only woman on the executive board. "Horizon is notoriously secretive. Has anyone even met this Max Horizon person? For all we know, it could be a front for foreign interests." Before Robert could respond, there was a knock at the boardroom door. His assistant poked her head in. "I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Thompson, but there's someone here who says she has important information regarding Horizon Technologies." "A Ms. Johnson," Robert frowned. "Johnson. The IT specialist from this morning." Yes, sir, she's quite insistent. Robert hesitated, then nodded. Send her in, quickly. Maya entered the boardroom with the confidence of someone who belonged there. She carried a sleek briefcase and was now wearing the blazer she'd had draped over her arm earlier. The transformation was subtle but effective. She no longer looked like someone who had been called in for a quick computer fix. Ms. Johnson, Robert said, confusion evident in his tone. This is a private board meeting. If you've come about an IT position, my assistant can— I'm not here about an IT position, Mr. Thompson, Maya interrupted smoothly. I'm here about Horizon Technologies. The room fell silent. You work for Horizon? James asked, leaning forward. Maya placed her briefcase on the table and looked directly at Robert. In a manner of speaking, I founded Horizon Technologies. I am the owner and CEO you've been trying to contact these past months. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the room erupted in disbelieving laughter and dismissive comments. Is this some kind of joke? The janitor's daughter? Robert, who is this woman? The tension in the boardroom was suffocating. Robert Thompson's face had turned a deep shade of crimson as he stared in disbelief at the young woman standing confidently at the end of the mahogany table. The same woman who, just hours earlier, had been kneeling under his desk fixing his computer. The daughter of Gladys, the company janitor who had faithfully cleaned these offices for 27 years. You're telling me that you— Robert's voice cracked as he pointed a trembling finger at Maya Johnson. You're the owner of Horizon Technologies, the same company that's been outbidding us on every contract for the past 3 years? Maya nodded, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos erupting around her. The board members whispered frantically to one another. Papers shuffled. Someone dropped a pen that clattered across the polished table. Not just the owner, Maya said, her voice steady and clear. I founded it, built it from nothing while watching my mother scrub your floors every night. Robert collapsed back into his leather chair. This is impossible. This is corporate espionage. The other executives began shouting all at once. Accusations flew across the room. Maya's gaze never wavered from Robert's face, even as his trusted advisor, James Wilson, placed a restraining hand on his shoulder. Call security, someone yelled. No, Robert slammed his palm on the table, silencing the room. Everyone out except you, he pointed at Maya. And you, he nodded to James. This ends now. As the room cleared, Maya opened her briefcase and removed a folder. Before you make any decisions, Mr. Thompson, I think you should see exactly what I'm offering your company, because contrary to what you might believe right now, I'm not here to destroy you. You can't be serious. Completely serious. You can retire tomorrow if you want. Gladys looked around the boardroom at the gleaming table she had dusted countless times, at the windows she had cleaned through seasons and years. Retire, she echoed softly. Then more firmly, no, not yet. I've got at least a few more years in me, but maybe I'll cut back to part-time. Robert, who had been watching this exchange with a mixture of emotions, cleared his throat. Actually, Gladys, if you're not interested in retirement, the merged company will need someone to oversee workplace culture and employee relations. Someone who understands every level of the organization from the ground up. It would be a significant promotion, of course. Gladys looked at him in surprise. Are you offering me a corporate job, Mr. Thompson? Robert, please, and yes, I am. Your perspective would be invaluable as we integrate our companies. Maya watched her mother consider this unexpected turn of events. For a woman who had spent her life being overlooked, the recognition was clearly overwhelming. I'll think about it, Gladys finally said, dignified despite the tears in her eyes. But first, I believe you have a board waiting to hear about the future of their company. Robert nodded and moved to call the board members back in. As he reached the door, he paused and turned back. Maya, before they return, I owe you an apology. When you said you were the owner of Horizon, my first reaction was disbelief. Not because of your capabilities, but because of my own preconceptions. I was wrong. Apology accepted, Maya replied. But now you understand why Max Horizon had to exist. The business world wasn't ready to accept someone like me at the helm of a technology empire. Then we'll have to change that, Robert said with newfound determination. Starting today. As the board members filed back in, their expressions ranged from suspicious to curious. Robert took his place at the head of the table, with Maya and James flanking him on either side. Gladys moved to leave, but Maya caught her hand. Stay, Mama. You've earned your place at this table, too. And so Gladys Johnson, who had entered Thompson Enterprises through the service entrance for 27 years, took a seat in the boardroom beside her daughter. As Robert began outlining the merger proposal, she sat tall, her dignity radiating to every corner of the room. The board's reaction to the merger proposal was mixed. Some immediately saw the potential, while others balked at the idea of partnering with a company they had been plotting to devour just hours earlier. Harold Jenkins was the most vocal opponent. "This is absurd. We're supposed to take the word of a woman who deceived the entire industry, who created a fictional CEO. For all we know, Horizon's success is smoke and mirrors." Maya didn't flinch. "Horizon's financial records and client list are included in your packets. Our technology speaks for itself. But if you'd prefer Thompson Enterprises continue its current trajectory, I'm happy to withdraw my offer and watch what happens." Diane Mercer, who had been carefully reviewing the documents, spoke up. "These innovations, the quantum encryption protocol especially, this is revolutionary. If this is legitimate, it puts the merged company years ahead of competitors." "It's legitimate," Maya confirmed. "Patented under my name, though few made the connection between Maya Johnson and Horizon Technologies." Robert watched the board members' expressions shift as they began to absorb the reality of the situation and the lifeline they were being offered. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I've had the same concerns you're expressing now, but after reviewing Ms. Johnson's proposal and credentials, I'm convinced this merger represents our best path forward. Frankly, our only viable path." James supported this with a concise breakdown of the financial projections, showing how the merged company would be positioned to capture significant market share within 18 months. Gradually, the resistance in the room gave way to cautious optimism. By the end of the presentation, even Harold Jenkins was reluctantly nodding along. "We'll need to move quickly," Robert concluded. "Our legal team will work with Horizons to draft the official merger documents, but today I'm asking for the board's preliminary approval to proceed." The vote was unanimous. As the meeting adjourned, board members approached Maya one by one, some to introduce themselves, others to ask technical questions about Horizon's products, and a few simply to size up this unexpected new player in their world. Maya handled each interaction with the same composed confidence she'd shown throughout the day. Diane Mercer was the last to approach. "You know, I've been the only woman in this boardroom for 11 years, she said quietly. "It's about damn time that changed." She offered Maya her card. "Call me, we have a lot to discuss." When the boardroom finally emptied, only Maya, Gladys, Robert, and James remained. The four of them: janitor, CEO, CTO, and CFO, an unlikely alliance that would reshape the future of both companies. "Well," Robert said, loosening his tie, "I think we all could use a drink after that." "I've got cleaning to finish," Gladys reminded them, ever practical. "Not anymore, you don't," Robert replied. "As of this moment, you're on special assignment to the executive team. We'll have HR draw up the paperwork tomorrow." Maya watched her mother's face, saw the pride battling with decades of ingrained caution. "It's real, Mama," she said softly. "Everything's changing." Gladys nodded, a smile slowly spreading across her face. "Then I believe I will have that drink." As they gathered their things to leave, Robert paused beside Maya. "There's one thing I still don't understand. Why did you choose today to reveal yourself? Why not continue operating behind the scenes?" Maya glanced at her mother before answering. "When my father died, he left me his notebooks full of brilliant ideas that the world never saw. On the first page, he'd written something I've never forgotten. Innovation hidden away helps no one. Truth eventually must stand in the light." She straightened her blazer. It was time for the truth to stand in the light. 6 months later, Maya stood at the podium in the Thompson Horizon Technologies auditorium, addressing the company's 5,000 employees. The merger had been finalized 3 months earlier, and today marked the official launch of their flagship product, a cybersecurity system that had already secured contracts with 3 government agencies. "When I founded Horizon Technologies 7 years ago, I worked alone in a 1-bedroom apartment, coding through the night while holding down a day job," Maya told the assembled crowd. "I created Max Horizon because I needed the world to see my ideas, not my identity. But in doing so, I learned a painful lesson. Innovation thrives in the light, but only when everyone has equal access to that light." She gestured to the executive team seated behind her, Robert, James, and her mother Gladys, now the senior vice president of workplace culture. "This company represents a new approach, one where we recognize that brilliant ideas can come from anywhere, from the CEO's office or from the person cleaning that office. The future belongs to those who see potential where others see only limitations." As Maya concluded her speech and the audience erupted in applause, she caught her mother's eye. Gladys was beaming with pride, no longer invisible, no longer overlooked. Later that evening, as they shared a quiet dinner in Maya's new office, Gladys raised her glass in a toast. "To your father," she said. Who would be so proud of what you've built? Maya smiled and raised her own glass. And to you, Mama, who taught me that dignity doesn't come from a title or a corner office. It comes from doing your work well, no matter what that work is. Robert, who had joined them for the celebration, added his glass to the toast. And to unexpected partnerships, sometimes the person you need most is the one you never thought to look for. As they clinked glasses, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From her father's rejected designs to her mother's years of invisible labor to her own secret empire built in the shadows. Now, finally, they were all standing in the light, and the view was better than she'd ever imagined. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments.